All right, so yesterday we solved those equations by factoring. Today we're going to be solving quadratics. By finding square roots and a technique called completing the square. All right, first technique, solving by finding square roots. And let's say we've got an equation like 4x squared. Let's see. What is the solution of each equation? 4x squared plus 10 equals 46. Yeah. I don't. Okay. Yesterday's problems, both terms had x's in them. And if you look at this problem right here, you got a 4x squared plus a 10 equals a 46. You don't have a term with just an x, okay? When you see that, you want to get your x on one side and all your numbers on the other side. This entire problem here only has one variable in it, just this x squared. So your technique kind of goes back to algebra 1 when you were just solving for a variable. So you start this by subtracting 10 from each side. And you're left with 4x squared equals 36. And now, since we're just trying to solve for x, we can divide both sides by 4. We get x squared equals 9. And when you get to this step, what you do is you find the square root of both sides. All right, so the square root of x squared is just x. The square root of 9 is actually positive or negative 3. So those are your two solutions for this quadratic. Your zeros are positive 3 and negative 3. The graph is going to hit the x-axis at positive 3 and negative 3. This might be one of the simpler ways to solve a quadratic, right? Just solving for x. If you get 7, x squared minus 10 equal to 25. And you add 10 to each side. We get 7x squared equals 35. If you divide both sides by 7 now, then x squared equals 35 over 7. And if you find the square root of both sides, then x equals, go with positive or negative. If we take 35 and we divide it or put it over 7 and square root button, we get 2.24. So positive or negative 2.24. You guys all right with that? Let's do one more of these. Let's take 2x squared plus 9 equals 13. Can subtract 9 from each side. So 2x squared equals 4. and divide both sides by 2. X squared is going to be equal to 2. If you find the square root of both sides, here, you're going to see your answer 2 ways. You're going to see x equals positive or negative square root of 2, or positive or negative, and then you put 2 in the calculator and you find the square root of it, which is 1.41. You'll see those answers both ways, in radical form and in decimal form. Good? Questions on that? Finding square roots. All right. All right, next we're going to solve a perfect square. So let's say we get x squared plus 4x plus 4. And it's equal to 25. All right, we talked about perfect square trinomials a little bit last week and the week before. And it's important that you recognize this trinomial on the left is a perfect square. X squared is a perfect square and 4 is a perfect square. So the whole left side of this equation factors to x plus 2 squared. And it's still equal to 25. Now, since this whole quantity here is in the parentheses, if you take the square root of both sides, on the left-hand side, the square root of x plus 2 squared is x plus 2. And it's equal to the square root of 25, which is positive or negative 5. Now here's how you finish this. You take x plus 2 and you make it equal to the positive 5. And then you take x plus 2 and you make it equal to the negative 5. And then we got to solve both equations. So we're going to subtract 2. So we get an x equal to 3. And then subtract 2 again. X equals negative 7. So those are your two solutions, or those are your two zeros for that perfect square trinomial. All right, let's do one more of these. The key is to recognize these perfect squares. All right, so we got x squared minus 14x plus 49 equals 25. You have to see this x squared and you have to see the 49 and realize that they're perfect squares. And now since this 14x is negative, this perfect square trinomial factors to x minus 7 squared. Still equal to 25. In the problem we just did, this second term was positive. So this perfect square trinomial had a factor of x plus 2 squared. When the middle term is negative, the factor is going to have a x minus in the parentheses. So now your technique remains the same. You square root both sides. So x minus 7 is equal to positive or negative 5. You write two equations. X minus 7 equals the positive 5. And x minus 7 equals the negative 5. You add 7 to each side here, this first equation, so we get an x equal to 12. And in the second equation, add 7 to both sides again, and x equals positive 2. So here's your zeros, 2 and 12. It's where the parabola is going to hit the x-axis. Any questions on any of those types of problems? Factoring by finding the square roots and then solving by using perfect squares. All right, then your practice for today on page 237. Problems 12 through 17. And then 19 through 24.